Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello everyone and welcome to This is Football. Welcome to another transfer news show, ladies and gentlemen. We have got you guys occupied on this channel. We're just doing content all the way through. We've done an Arsenal transfer news. We've done multiple Liverpool transfer newses. We've done a United one. We've spoken so much on transfers because this is transfer season. So this is what you can expect on This is Football. Just because it's the summer and there's no football to watch and you're sat at home bored, we got you covered. We got you covered with all the news that you want to listen to. And today, on the dinner plate, is Chelsea Football Club. Because we looked at it from Arsenal's perspective yesterday, where Troops was about to cry on the stream as Lewis was dunking on his head top. Today, we're talking about Chelsea Football Club. Caicedo, selling Havertz, selling Mounts, looking at Onana, the goalkeepers, the Todd Bowley situation, everything Chelsea Football Club related, that's going to be today's topic. So, everyone watching right now or on the replay, because I know a whole lot of you guys like to watch this on the replay, please do make sure you're slapping that like button. Make sure you're subscribing to This is Football if you're ready to do so. And I already see people saying this. Instead of saying take off your hat, today's target is 150 likes. We get to 150 likes, my hat's going to come off. And you're going to see my bald head. So that's the only way you can see my bald head today. So make sure you're slapping the like button, subscribing to This Football if you're ready to do so. And today, I've got two special Chelsea guests. One a journalist and one a celebrity. So first of all, let me introduce the journalist, of course, because we have to leave the celebrities till the end. Is a man, if you guys are OGs of This is Football, you've seen this guy on This is Football 500 times already. He's been a guy that we've brought on for such a long time on this channel. Such a long time. And he's been representing Chelsea Football Club on This is Football. And this, he thought he was going to get the summer off. I'm like, Rob, who gets the summer off if you work in football? That's the busiest time of the year. Joining us on the channel, of course, is the man, the myth himself. Always ready to make an appearance for This is Football. Always ready for us, you know. Man like Rob has joined us on the channel. How are you doing, brother?
Yeah, absolute pleasure to be back. Again, I think the last time I was actually here was the January window. It's been a while. It has been I've been on hiatus, but as the transfer window happens, just like at Christmas that, they dust off the old Christmas CDs. When it comes to the transfer window, you dust off my contact details and actually, get in touch with me.
Big effort. I thought, wow, now I look like the bad guy.
No, it's I will say I'm sure there's at least 2 invites that I've subsequently not been available for, so it's probably it's because you're getting celebrities on the channel now. You're past the need for people like me.
Yeah, fair enough. And speaking of celebrities, we're both gonna get his autograph when we meet him. And I'm actually disappointed in this guy. And let me publicly expose this guy right here, right now. I DM'd this guy. I'm like, "Are you free for a Chelsea show?" And he's like, "Didn't you just have me on for the Chelsea review? Are you going to try cook me again?" And I'm like, Matisse, this is our brotherhood. Now you just think I'm there to cook you? Of course I'm not there to cook you. We're here to talk football too. Today, there is no cooking. I'm talking Caicedo. I'm talking Havertz. I'm talking Mouse. I'm talking better time for Mr. Matisse Armani. But thank God, His Royal Highness has made time today to join This is Football. Us peasants on the channel. So make sure you're slapping the like button. Make sure you're subscribing. Because the king of Chelsea has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. Man like Matisse has joined us.
Every single time. Every time I come back to this channel, this guy always likes to do this holier than thou bullshit with me. Listen, big up yourselves, you know what I'm saying? Good to be back. It's a good thing you didn't get me on in the morning, because I was on Goonies channel this morning and my hay fever was moving mad. So it was a poor performance. So I feel a lot better now, and it's good to be here.
I knew not to get you on the morning, because it's definitely not you don't strike me like a morning person.
I do content in the morning, but I am not a morning person. No, that's unwillingly doing content in the morning.
Hey Rob, that's that celebrity influencer thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he's getting up any time before lunchtime. I mean, you've got your PA to manage everything.
I used to have a PA. Actually, he's not here with me anymore.
Big up the PA, man. Big up. Oh my God. Great start to the video already. Big up to you guys, man. 163 people in here. 150 likes. The hat's going to come off. You get to see bald Hussam on your weekend to lighten it up. Hussam the Eagle Nurmagomedov, they're calling me now. There's already 163 people in here. Like the video, subscribe. Let's rock and roll. So, before we get to the Caicedo, before we get to that, I'll actually want to start with a little bit of good news to you guys. I know you guys are kind of balanced when it comes to this whole Havertz Mount thing, but it looks like Mount's headed over to Manchester United. Havertz is headed over to Arsenal or wherever. Both players are apparently, according to reports, leaving. So I want to go to Rob first, and then we open it up from there. Talk to me, brother. Havertz, Mount, kind of the outgoings for Chelsea this summer. What are you saying?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly from a Chelsea perspective, it's going to be a bigger summer this year of outgoings and incomings. Last year, there was obviously, I think, 10 senior players came in the summer, and then they had a further 6 players signed in January. It's not going to be anything like that this year. The focus is on trimming the squad. And indeed, they already do have a couple of deals done. Kante is obviously leaving on a permanent deal. Chelsea have finally got rid of Timu Bakayoko rather than just consistently putting him to loan purgatory.
Today, when I saw his name, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I'm sure
I know what you're talking about. The release list, right? When I saw Bakayoko, I'm like, oh my God, he just got released. I was so shocked, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen one iconic French midfielder leave this week. We're going to see another iconic French midfielder leave soon. I think this was to soften the blow for it, really. But there's significant interest in Kai Havertz. Havertz himself is really keen on a move to Arsenal. He feels like he's had conversations with the club and he feels like they've got a good plan. The real curveball with Havertz might be now that Bayern have, through Thomas Tuchel's sort of influence, really started to drive the interest today. They are really, really pushing for it this afternoon and trying to push for a bid. They see him as more attainable than some of their other striker suggestions, including Victor Osimhen and sort of Randall Colomani. So it wouldn't surprise me if Chelsea try and, they have a fee they want for him. They want 75 million. They're willing to be flexible to an extent, but now if they've got to a point that they kind of wanted the bidding more and they wanted to see multiple teams involved. Real Madrid step back due to the price. Whether Bayern will do the same is another. At the moment, certainly Arsenal are ahead because they do have a broad agreement on personal terms. They're going to pay Havertz slightly more than he's currently getting at the moment as a base at Chelsea. So he is actually slightly upgrading. But they are, it's certainly at this moment in time they're ahead. But I think that Thomas Tuchel being interested in it, he is someone who really does like Kai Havertz. Bayern always have had a long-term idea that Kai Havertz could come to the club and replace Thomas Muller in the longer term. It was him or Florian Wirtz they wanted really for that role. And I think Chelsea will be quite happy to have a bidding war. Like, they will not necessarily want to see this finish quickly. From a Mount perspective, it's a bit more interesting. Chelsea have a value they view on Mason Mount, and that value isn't really budging at all. They have had conversations with Manchester United who've made one bid. That bid has been rejected. They are planning on making a second bid. I understand that's more likely to be a sort of take it or leave it bid. Chelsea are very happy to keep Mason Mount at this moment in time. If they don't get an offer that meets their valuation, they view him as a significant sort of player. They view Pochettino certainly would really like to keep him and is pushing to keep him. And I think if Havertz does leave, then Mount is more likely to stay. Now, obviously, they are playing a bit of a dangerous game in Mount because he could be out on a free transfer next summer. But I think Pochettino certainly, who has been in a lot of conversations, certainly recently with Mount, is backing on the basis that if he becomes a key player, he will end up staying and he will want to stay and they'll be able to find the financial packaging sort of around it. So that's kind of a little bit of a sort of interesting sort of subplot with that, I suppose. I also do think that if Chelsea sell Kai Havertz, there'll be...
Sorry, before I forget, just on what you just said. Number one, on an objective level, do you think 75 million is a bit too much for Havertz? And second of all, why are Chelsea running the risk of losing Mount on a free next summer? Because it is his last year.
Chelsea, in their mind, Chelsea, I'll start the Mount one. In their mind with Chelsea, Mount is someone who obviously they didn't pay anything for. He came through the academy. So from a opportunity cost point of view, everything would be profit. And anything on the books would be booked as profit, whatever they make from the player. So they're possibly looking at it at this moment in time and saying, well, due to the nature of replacements we have in mind, maybe we can't get any of them in for a low enough price. Now, increasingly, there is interest in some other midfielders, and there are other names. I mean, I think Felix has reported this week about Felix Johnson has reported interest in Maddison. I know Chelsea have looked at Dominic Szoboszlai before from RB Leipzig, although he's likely to go elsewhere. there has been an element of interest in some other number 10s. But I think Chelsea really, they want to make sure they get value for players. And despite this FFP fire sale that a lot of people have sort of been expecting, Chelsea aren't in a position where they need to just accept every single bid. They're in a position where they want to try and maximise the value for players. And indeed, they know they have offers for them. From a Havertz point of view, I think 75 million could be it's a strange one for Havertz, because I thought Havertz would do a lot better at Chelsea than he has. I watched him at Bayer Leverkusen. He was absolutely dominant. He looked like the sort of player that could be really impressive. I think partly Chelsea haven't used him effectively, because I think his best position is in behind the striker or partnered with another striker. But also, I do get the feeling that maybe he's not cut out the English game. He has that languidity that people like Ozil had that made them, the subject of great criticism, rightly or wrongly. I think Chelsea, because it's a rival, again, you're sort of talking about Arsenal in this regard, I think 75 million is fair. If it's Bayern Munich,
there's no way you think 75 million is fair.
I think Chelsea might be prepared to look for a lower fee if it was selling them abroad, because it will be less of a direct competitor. But they are also willing to be, flexible in general. They are willing to sort of be flexible in general with the price tag.
Okay, fair enough. Matthias, your time to shine, my brother. Apparently wearing red for Liverpool. Okay, I didn't know that. Big up to you, Matthias. So, Havertz and Mount, just talk to me about this whole situation. You kind of heard what Rob was saying regarding the sales. I can't lie to you, Rob. You're a good salesman, because you almost convinced me that 75 million is enough. But I'm looking at it now. I'm just like, nope, that's just too much money. That's just too much money for what
my argument for it would be is that when you look at Havertz, when he's played consistently in one role and played consistently in his best role, he's actually performed. It's been when he's been shunted about and played as a striker and played on the wing, he's tended to struggle.
Okay, fair enough. Matthias, what's your opinion on the matter?
On Mount and Kai, I mean, you have to get money for them. Like, if Mount's going into his last year, as much as I would like Mount to stay, ideally, in my world, he's not like this a generational player where he's irreplaceable if he leaves. So for me personally, I'm more than happy to take money for him as long as he's replaced properly. I'd prefer him to stay. I think Pochettino would get him back to a level that we've seen previously. And I remember saying to you on my show that when Liverpool fans said they didn't want Mount, I think Mount suits a Klopp team very, very well. That wasn't me trying to pitch Mount to you to be,
Thank God.
Conniving or anything. I actually genuinely do think that. I think a lot of people have seen Mount the last year, 18 months. He's stagnated. He hasn't developed. He hasn't kicked on. He hasn't really found his true position, in my opinion, because he's been filling in for other players that have been underperforming at times in the attack. Lampard and Tuchel have kind of used him as pressing triggers. I think he could have been a lot more than that. So he's been kind of called and promoted as this roadrunner, which I don't think he has to be. I think Gallagher is a roadrunner. That is someone that I actually believe is a roadrunner. I've been watching him for years. Whereas Mount, I think, has got a lot more ability. But listen, I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. If he leaves, it is what it is. The negotiations between him and the board have gone from ownership over to new recruitment members. It's gone wrong. It's somewhere in there. The offers have either been a bit disrespectful. Maybe he's looked at it like that, or communications broken down between him and his multiple agents. It was his dad, then it went to somebody else over the start of the year. So for me personally, I'll get over it, but I do think he'll do very well when he leaves. I don't think he's gonna bust. And with Kai, with Kai, listen, 3 years I've been watching Kai, and I think most, if not all, Chelsea fans wanted Kai to do extremely well here. We put a lot of money and resources in him. We may have misprofiled him a little bit. I think his plan was never to really play up front. It just kind of happened that he fell into that position because of poor recruitment in the striker position, whether it be Lukaku or Aubameyang. But I still believe that Kai, he should be doing better than he's done, even if he's playing slightly out of position. I've made comparisons before of other players playing slightly out of position, and they have at least still turned up and delivered a lot more than Kai has. So I think the position thing is a little bit of a cop-out, because I do believe that if Kai was to, first of all, stay here, he would be second choice to Nkunku if he was playing in that 10 position. True. And second of all, I do question Kai's mindset as to whether he's really going to be a top player. He seems to kind of go through the motions and be he feels like a very Wenger Emirates player, kind of a very nice player to watch. He's easy on the eye, occasional masterclass maybe, but I can probably count no more than 5 games that Kai's actually been, you know, this incredible player that's for Chelsea. He's been man in a match, and he's taken, you know, the game by the scruff of the neck. I can't really think of too many games. I can think of games for others like Mount. I can't think of games for Kai. So I think for me, he's underwhelmed. Whether or not he does it in this league, I don't really know. But listen, I'm not here to say he's a bum at all, because I really like this player. And when he was at Leverkusen, he was extremely exciting. Do you know what I mean? He had a lot of composure, really good vision, could pop out of a goal. So there is a player in there, but I'm tired of trying to find that player. And until this day, nobody still knows his position. You speak to some fans, they tell you false 9. Some other fans will tell you a box crashing 10. Some other fans will tell you he can play off the flanks still. You know, I'm seeing comps from Bayer Leverkusen all over the TL from Arsenal fans. Suddenly now they're doing propaganda for him. It's incredible what rival fans will do when a player is linked to their club. Suddenly now everybody's a Kai Havertz fan. I haven't seen any propaganda for Kai Havertz in years. All of his comp highlights are coming off the right flank, in the right half space, in the right channel, coming in on his left foot, switching play, you know, taking shots. And as far as I'm aware, that's Odegaard's position. So unless he's going to play in Xhaka's position, which is off the left, which is a completely different position for him that I've not really seen him playing too much, I'm not worried. And as I said on my channel a couple of days ago, if this is taking Arsenal off the map for Caicedo, which it looks like it is, I'm all ears, because I'm trying to see Caicedo come to us and not to them. I think Caicedo and Rice is a much more of a needle mover than Havertz coming in instead of Caicedo for them. So
do you think Havertz is worth 75 million? I'm going to be shameless.
Of course not. But you're our London rivals, and you're the biggest team in London, so you can pay the premium price. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not friends. You know, Arsenal and Chelsea are rivals. So if you're going to come to our neck of the woods and try and take a player that you know has been wanted by Real Madrid in recent weeks, and you believe he's someone that can do a serious job for you in that Xhaka role or wherever they plan to play him. I personally don't think he's an upgrade on their strikers that they have. I think he's basically a little bit of what they already have in Trossard and Jesus, dropping deep in between the lines, trying to link up. He's not someone who's going to come and get 20, 25, 30 goals up there. So as we've seen, he's underperformed his XG more than anybody else in this league this season. So it's not even an alternate. It's not even like an alternative up front for them. So I'm not really sure what the plan is. Maybe there's a change of system coming, but they're going to have to pay. 100% they have to pay, because they're Arsenal. Of course they have to pay.
Ashraf, I can't believe as an Arsenal fan you really say that. Like, Kai would be a decent backup for Jorginho and Odegaard. First of all, why are you paying that much for a backup?
Can I just say they mean Jesus and not Jorginho?
But the funny thing is that, like, if he's going in there to be backup, then what are Chelsea fans really shitting themselves over? Like,
exactly.
It's not like we're selling them someone who, unless he is a starter, which I would assume he has to be. If you're paying 50 to 60 million, which is what it's going to take minimum, if we're negotiating, right? He has to be a starter, I'm assuming. But if he's going in there to be a rotational option, which is exactly what he would be for us, all of this, Salah, De Bruyne, I think the fan base has PTSD. I think, honestly, they keep bringing up these names every single year. Anytime it's time to sell someone, they've been on your deadwood list for the whole season. You've been shouting, screaming, cussing, cursing about these players for the whole year. And suddenly now, when it's actually time to take the money, but they're going to a rival. Newsflash, the rival clubs are going to sign good players regardless, whether they come from us or they come from Spain or they come from Italy or they come from Germany. If Arsenal enter the race for Barella, Chelsea fans will be shitting themselves. So do you want them to get a Barella or do you want them to get a Kai Havertz? Which one do you want? Like, for me personally, I'm excited to see him in an Arsenal shirt. I'm excited for the story to continue, for the cinema, for the rivalry. I want to be an enemy. Let's do this. I'm here for it. Because, like I said, I haven't seen anything, and he's been given enough time for me to not regret it. As long as the thing is with us is if we don't replace players properly, that's where the regret comes from. The reason why people regret Matic is not because Matic went on to Man United and won Premier Leagues and was unbelievable. It's because we replaced him with Bakayoko. People miss Costa. It's not because Costa didn't want to leave for a Chinese team mid-season. It's because we brought in Morata. So it's who comes in and how well they do is to whether or not you're going to miss them or not. That's how it works for me.
You know, I'm going to just say this quickly. I'm not a Chelsea fan. I'm not an Arsenal fan. If you're an Arsenal fan and you want Kai Havertz, slap yourself for me right now. Wake up. This is reality. Wash your face with a little bit of water. Stop drinking or smoking, whatever you're smoking or drinking, because it's just, I don't know what you're on. And if you're a Chelsea fan that you think you're going to miss Havertz, I can't lie to you. What are you going to miss exactly? Like, it's just, You know, there's a guy earlier on who said he hasn't even hit 40 goals in 3 years for Chelsea. Like,
yeah, it's a pretty good chant. I'll give you that. I will miss the chant because the chant does really well. Unfortunately, every other side has now stolen it.
So
And,
it's the chant. That's good. That's
exactly,
it. It's the chant. No,
that's exactly that. That's the chant, and also the goal. You know, the thing for me with Havertz is never kicked on. And I think Matisse, you made a great point, and I sort of tweeted something similar to this the other day. People have moaned all year about these players, you know, being sold, and said, you know, I've seen various people tweeting and say, if we get 60 million off for Havertz in the summer, I would take it. And now suddenly when people are putting this money on the table, everyone's saying, why are we selling these players? Increasingly, you're going to find, and this is a more general point in the Premier League, I think, the Premier League clubs, because they're all cash rich, there's going to be one or two other ones in Europe, you know, like Bayern are generally quite cash strong. PSG are obviously cash strong. Real Madrid are cash strong. Barcelona aren't cash strong, but they will, you know, beg, borrow, or steal money from somewhere to make it happen. But other than that, you have the Premier League clubs, and all of them are going to start doing more and more business with each other because they're going to demand fees that other clubs can't pay. And increasingly, you're going to start seeing, I think, a two-tier market where certain teams are going to be buying from, you know, you're looking at things like Barella, for example, like Inter Milan's starting midfielder, an Italian like national, moving from there to, you know, a club, albeit that is now got a lot of money, but has got in the Champions League for the first time ever, would be unheard of, say, you know, 10 years ago. But nowadays, it's a complete reality because financially, there's just such a gulf between the Premier League and everywhere else.
Yeah. I agree with that. And listen, I hear the idea of, I think you both kind of touched on it. If you want to sell to Arsenal, you'd sell more expensive than you sell to Bayern. That's just something all clubs in all leagues do. I'll be honest with you. Like, you know, unless it's the Prem, because they know the Prem has money. But anyway, big up to Ashraf for the super chat. I just want to touch on Mount a little bit. I think you both are kind of a little bit more less willing to let go of Mount than you are of Havertz. I think you guys are more.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Mount picked up two player of the years out of what now in a total of 4 seasons, and Kai Havertz has not even had a good season. In my opinion, Kai Havertz has not even had a good season. Not any one of his seasons can I look at and say that was a good season. They've all been underwhelming to different degrees. He does turn up in big moments, which is nice, but that only makes me more annoyed that he doesn't turn up when we're at home to Brentford. So for me, with Mount, I think last 12, 18 months he's stagnated, but there is a player there because what I watched in particularly the first player of the year season was really, really impressive. I think then he became a little bit of a GA kind of hungry person. And depending on what footballer you speak to, some footballers, they're like, listen, I need to get that GA up. But then some footballers are like, as Bellingham spoke a little bit in his presser, wearing that 5 shirt, which Zidane famously wore for Real Madrid. You don't need to always be thinking about GA. You do need to think about your overall game.
That was an unnecessary shot that
I didn't even mean it to be a shot, but the fact that
I've not even been an asshole all stream.
I know. It's just
he just brought up the Bellingham thing. He's the reason I look like this, Matisse. He's the reason
take that hat off. Yes, come on.
Can I remind you, Sam, that, you know, as well as that, we've also potentially got your other 2 midfielders that you wanted in Enzo and Caicedo.
It's crazy, right? Because I did post this on Big Six.
I'm inviting these guys to do a Chelsea transfer show, and they're both just cooking me. I'm
going to shamelessly admit I was the person who posted that on the Big Six account, right? And I saw
what on the Big Six account?
I posted the Liverpool kits, right? There's this wonderful edit graphic that was made by some sort of Liverpool fan way back, and it had Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, and Bellingham all lined up in Liverpool kits.
Oh, I know what
that midfield was just, it's beautiful. What's crazy is that potentially 2 of those players out of the 3 are coming to us. And this is where I've been going back and forth so much.
But you know how long, from last summer I was talking about Enzo as well.
I know you was. Yeah, you're a big fan. But you know what it is that I've been trying to write home recently, especially last couple of days. Chelsea fans are going crazy because we're losing Jorginho, Kante, Cover all in the same span of 6 months, right? 2 of those players extremely injury prone that we can't depend upon. One of those players limitations physically, but very good, smart, intelligent player all the same in Jorginho, who seems like he's not even going to be at Arsenal next season. He could even be sold to Italy within 6 months, right? No balance in there. Can't find a consistent partnership. If you're telling me those 3 are going to leave and in comes Caicedo and Enzo, I'm laughing. I'm swimming because that trio wasn't picking up a Premier League title. It wasn't. I kept saying it. That trio, that time to pick up a Prem, long gone. You needed to get them in their peaks when they were fully fit. They were able to play a string of games. Now they're broken down. They got a lot of mileage on the car. For me now, that team, the peak is the top 4 race, and that's about it. So you're telling me now that we're gonna set ourselves up for the next decade with a younger, high potential duo, potentially, trio if the Andre Santoses and Cassidy's develop. That's brilliant. I'm laughing. So for me, I'm having a party with that. I'm very happy. That has to happen. The Caicedo deal needs to go over the line, and that's brilliant replacements in there.
Okay, that's what I want to talk about next. Before I do that, let me just run through these super chats quickly. Ashraf says, Sam, no Arsenal fan wants Havertz, but what I'm saying is if he's brought in as a backup, he could do the same job for us that Jorginho did as cover for Party. First of all, Havertz cannot do the same Jorginho job, akhi. Even if if you're referring to the backup job, look how much Jorginho cost, look how much Havertz cost. Havertz is going to cost a whole lot of money. Havertz should not be spent this much money on him for him to be a backup when he's significantly worse, in my opinion, than Jesus and than Odegaard, which is the 2 positions he can play. And Ashraf, listen, thank you for the super chat, akhi, but you're never going to convince me that Havertz is a good signing. I'm sorry. I couldn't care less because what Matisse said is a bad indication. Let me use a club that's neither yours nor mine. United fans that wanted to convince us that Paul Pogba was unbelievable. 3 years ago, they were using Juventus as part of their compilation. They are still doing Havertz compilations with Bayer Leverkusen from like 2018. It's time to move on, bro. He's been playing for Chelsea for 3 years now. Big up to you, Ashraf. Nilat Pal says, I question Arteta's choice for talent, to be honest. Does he think all Chelsea rejects will be Salah and KDB? I mean, to be honest with you, Salah played like 10 games for Chelsea. KDB played like 5 games for Chelsea. They went on to Wolfsburg.
I'd also say harsh, like, in terms of, like, does all Chelsea rejects, like, I've been someone who's criticised Jorginho massively in the past before. Like, you've heard me sort of comment on it. I don't think it's fair to criticise Jorginho because what Jorginho did, he did very well. It's the limitations that he had that were a problem and the fact that we couldn't sustainably manage those limitations. Like the same way with like Enzo Fernandez, for example. Like Enzo Fernandez is not a sort of bruising sort of, Nemanja Matic style midfielder. And if you put him up against a couple of like Nemanja Matic's, he's going to get kicked all over the place. You need someone in there with that strength and, the physicality to bite back and stop them sort of doing that. I think it's harsh to call Jorginho that. Obviously, they had some other ones like David Luiz and stuff. That was just stupid business. But from
Willian.
But with Willian, again, that was just stupid business again. But that said, you have to also wonder, did Arsenal, what did they do wrong? Because you've got Willian now who's come back and looks a player reborn at Fulham. And whether it was a case he needed that time away and needed that break. But he started off well for Arsenal and then just completely, form went off a cliff. You've got to wonder what happened to make the form go off a cliff. And I wonder if the same might happen with Jorginho. Jorginho started well, but will the form just go off a cliff at some point?
Okay, fair enough. Messi FC, how many times did I tell you don't embarrass me in front of the guests like this? How many times? You send me $99 to troll me. Fair enough when I'm alone. You send this in front of Matisse, asking him if he'd take Thiago for Gallagher. Are you dumb? Of course he would. Of course he would. He'd trade Thiago for 3 of the bum midfielders he just mentioned right now. Have some shame, Messi FC, bro. Come on, man. Messi FC, thank you for the super chat, but sometimes I just want to slap the shit out of you. Anyway, everyone watching us right now, 420 people are watching us. You can get this hat off instead of bitching in the comment section. You can get it off in the next 2 seconds. We are 50 likes away from 150 likes. Slap the like button right now. Subscribe to This Is Football. 150 likes and the hat is off. You get to see Hussam Nurmagomedov for the rest of the show. So make sure I can see Rob going to like the video. Haters. And Matisse is going to like it. Make sure you're liking the video right now. 150 likes, the hat's off. So slap that like button, subscribe. And keep letting us know your opinions in the comment section down below. And as I said, big up Messi FC, big up to Ashraf, big up to Nunez for the super chats. And now it's time for me to land the unpopular opinion. We've spoken on outgoings. Fair enough. I think if you wanted to do just a full-on Chelsea outgoing show, you're probably going to have to do like a 3-hour live because there's so many. But let's just, after we focused on kind of the 2 main meals, let's talk now on the players that you're going to sign. Guys, we're 10 likes away. Yalla, slap that like button. We're going to talk about the guys that you're going to sign. And as we saw yesterday, for all the people who were watching the Transfer News show yesterday, Troops lost his mind on the Transfer News that I did because it came on live that Arsenal apparently are pulling off from Caicedo according to the Times. So he's the player that as according to Fabrizio, Chelsea are the front runners for man like Caicedo. And I have an unpopular opinion on Caicedo, but go on, guys. What's your thoughts on that whole Caicedo situation?
Happy as Larry. I mean, this is a needle mover, right? This is a needle mover in our midfield because ever since Kante started getting injury prone, we've been too dependent on him, and we've not actually replaced him with what attributes, made him so important in the first place. And Caicedo, he's got the legs. He can, deal with an end-to-end game, which is something we've struggled with at times in terms of transitions and an open situation. We don't want to be open because I don't think being open is good for your defense, regardless of who's back there, unless you've got some sort of one in a million Van Dijk before the injury. But, in that situation, Caicedo can handle across the ground.
Nice.
I know, yeah, I had to balance it out. But the thing that I love about Caicedo is he knows what he's doing in the first phase. And that's something that I could never trust with Kante. And that's the difference for me, is that Caicedo is used to playing as the deepest midfielder. I do think there's some positional kind of awareness in terms of when to stay and when to go from him. I think he can do both. He's had McAllister next to him for most of the season. He's then had to go to right back and swap with Pascal Gross. He's a player that's intelligent enough to play a multitude of positions, and he's only 21. And he's obviously had the World Cup experience as well. So I really, really think this is a top player already, walking into our lineup. No questions asked. And I think he gives Enzo some freedom. I think I don't want to see Enzo playing in the 6 anymore. I really don't. Enzo's been, asked to basically pick up the ball off the centre backs, start first phase. And that's fine because he can do that. But off the ball, he's not a DM. And I said that when he came in. I don't care what he did for Argentina. People were saying, he played DM for Argentina. McAllister left and then De Paul. And I said, listen, I don't care. He's not a DM. I've seen... Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying he wasn't a lone DM, though. He had someone next to him.
He had someone next to him.
Massive difference.
But for Benfica, Luis was always next to him. And Luis did a brilliant job next to him. And he was... And when you see...
And Adel Tarabt as well. He actually plays DM there.
Yeah. That's mad the way his career's gone. Saw him in the Champions League a couple of seasons ago. I thought, what the hell is going on here? I thought I'd had a stroke. But listen, when it comes to him, I think when you look at his attributes, there's no way you don't want this guy closer to the box, or at least getting into the second and third phase, because his passing, his vision is fantastic. We saw it for the goal against West Ham when he clipped it in for Felix. I think he's got the potential to shoot from range and add some goals into the team as well. And he's just, he's what we've been crying out for in the final third, which is decision-making, vision, execution. So why would you then throw that all the way back near the centre-backs? For so long, this midfield's been backwards. We've had Jorginho, who's the passing guy, as the DM. We've had Kante, who is the tackling guy, as the box-to-box midfielder, who's in the final third, making final balls and final decisions and taking shots and going up for headers when the crosses come in. It's so backwards. We're the only team that does this. We're the only team that builds our midfield backwards. Everybody else has their playmakers, their technical guys playing as 8s, and hopefully they'll press as well. Bernardo Silva, best of both worlds. And then they have their tacklers and their DMs shielding the back 4, just doing the basics. We want to flip it and do a crazy shit. So I've never understood it, but at least now it's now coming to a close, because obviously we could never trust Kante. Well, I could never trust Kante as a DM, and you'd never want Jorginho, caught out in attacking midfield. So yeah, this is just a good start to getting the midfield looking how it should look, I think.
Can I give my unpopular opinion so you both could just cook me, because I know you guys are going to get angry at this. But before I give you my unpopular opinion, do you think you're going to make any other £100 million signing? It's just going to be Caicedo that's going to
in this window. Do you mean in this window or in the future?
Yeah, in this window.
Well, I genuinely don't know, depending on outgoings. If we get enough outgoings, then the club do really want Victor Osimhen, and they've consistently spoken to Napoli and tried to get exactly what the valuation is. They've had conversations with his agent. There certainly is the determination, if he came up on the market, to be in the race and sort of conversation for him. That said, again, Chelsea's priority is getting players out, and they want to make sure the players they then bring in are players that are filling a role, and sort of not just buying players for the sake of buying players.
So from a percentage perspective, you'd say it's fair that it's more likely that you're just going to sign one £100 million signing.
Yeah. For a percentage.
Okay, so first of all, we've hit 150 likes. and I'm a man of my word. So off comes the hat. Hussam the Eagle Nurmagomedov has just signed in. And Matisse is going to ask me to send location because I'm about to just say something completely wild. But when you listen to it, it won't be that wild. I don't think Chelsea need Caicedo. I don't think that's a... I can see his eyebrow already moving up. I don't think Chelsea need Caicedo. I think Chelsea for these last 3 goals, for this last 3 years, have struggled massively with goals. If I can only buy one 100 million pound player, I'm gonna go sign Victor Osimhen.
We've done this before, brother.
No, but can I just land? Let me
land.
No,
don't land because you're crashing.
No, let me land. Let me land, and then you can cook me later. Just give me a second. I think Chelsea's biggest problem currently is scoring goals. Okay, that's fair. That's fair argument. Scoring goals has been your genuine problem. I think you need to fix your forward line before you touch anything else because you have an absolute problem with scoring goals. If I was in Chelsea's position, I'd go call Napoli right now. I'd drop 100 million on Victor Osimhen, and I'd get someone else like a Lavia in that midfield to play alongside Enzo.
Do you know why I massively disagree? Is because scoring goals is about chance creation. And not just chance creation, but quality chance creation. Now, the biggest issue for Chelsea for a long time is that they don't create quality chances. They just don't. Now, for me, that's partly because we haven't had players that could really spot runners. Enzo is now that player. You look at how many times Werner, Lukaku used to make runs, nobody would be able to spot them or no one would play the pass, etc. But also there's a lack of balance in midfield. And that lack of balance in midfield limits players from making risk-averted passes, in my opinion, because they know if they lose the ball, then suddenly now we're caught out on transition because we don't have a solid, proper midfield. We don't have a base. We don't have a Rodri to work off.
That's why I said get Lavia. I'm not saying don't get anyone.
I think I like Lavia, to be fair. So I don't think it's the worst shout in the world. But Lavia is going to cost minimum 45, 50 million. So it's not even like Lavia is cheap. But in terms of 100 million,
that's half the price of Caicedo, and you take that Caicedo money, you buy Osimhen.
But the reason, hold on.
How many times have you guys missed chances in football?
Hold on. Honestly. There's no reason to throw 100 million on a striker. You've just signed Gakpo, yeah. You've seen Man City get Alvarez. You've seen Arsenal get Jesus. Man United finished in Champions League with Martial on the hospital bed for most of the season. Who was playing up front? Weghorst. It just goes to show you don't need to have this massive name up front to finish in the top 4. Which
but you ain't got
the goal.
To score goals or a striker.
Which is the goal.
That's my thing.
The goal is we got to get back into the top 4, right? And you're talking about the wingers. I agree with you. They're not goal scorers. But Chelsea have spent a lot of time throwing money at strikers instead of actually finding the right profile. Lukaku, we threw money at, wrong profile. Aubameyang, stopgap, foolishness was never the right profile. I'm more interested in getting a striker that's the right profile that can contribute to multiple facets of the game, like a Muani a little bit from Frankfurt, even though he costs a lot as well. It's just an example.
But he costs a lot of money anyway.
Just an example. Not actually necessarily him, just an example. I'm more interested in the profile and the attributes more so than I am with just he scored goals over there, so he's going to score goals over here. Because that logic has failed us so many times, it's not even funny. The amount of times we see a striker's got a golden boot in another country and we bring them here and they can't finish or they can't seem to get goals. For me, it's just too many times now. And Osimhen, I'm not even hearing 100 million. I'm hearing 110, 20, 30. That's what I'm hearing.
Do you think it's worth it?
No, I don't. No, I don't think any striker outside of Harry Kane is worth that right now. If it was Harry Kane, you're telling me 100 million, I'll spend 100 million.
So let me reverse that. If I tell you don't get Caicedo, but you get Kane and a Lavia, for example, would you take that?
Bro, a Kane is cool. We can do that with Kane because Kane his track record in this league is second to none. This guy gets goals every single season. Kane's bust potential is like 0.0001%. This guy is born to score, and like I said, with the other attributes, he actually helps with your chance creation as well because he's a brilliant passer, great vision, really good crosser as well when he's in the wide areas. He's just a brilliant footballer. He drops deep, he can do all of that. So that would be fantastic, no problem. But with Osimhen, I'm not so 100% sure on that valuation. I think the Serie A struck me already with Lukaku, so I got to be a little bit careful here.
So my take, Loki, isn't that wild.
For me, this is a team that has not invested in its midfield seriously until Enzo January, but before that, since Cover, when he signed from Real Madrid under Lampard. So that's a long time to not invest in your midfield. And when you're losing Kante and you're losing Jorginho and you're losing Cover and you're losing potentially Mount, you need to bring in a big name in midfield, in my opinion. We've already got young players. We've got Santos. We've got Cassidy. Both of them are under 20 captains for their countries at the World Cup. We've already got Carney. So Lavia is another young player that needs developing. But for me, Caicedo, I think for all of the top teams, he just walks in. He's an instant starter. That's what we need, I think. That's what I think.
Rob, what's your take on my hot take /
Yeah,
Caicedo?
I mean, I am afraid. I can sort of see the argument that we do need a striker. However, I am sick to people saying that for the striker, you need to go out and spend a lot of money to bring in a proven name. Because every time we've done that, they've flopped. We brought in Lukaku, and he has about as much interest of being here as he does of being in an AC Milan shirt. He has about as much interest. He loves our club about as much as he likes AC Milan. Not at all. We brought in Morata, who has one of the weakest mentalities I've ever seen in football, and again, increasingly just looks for use for a money laundering operation. He's now being linked with a big bucks move to Saudi Arabia. I'm convinced money laundering. Costa, obviously, the one outlier. The cheap strikers that we brought in, Batshuayi, when he actually played, and when he actually played consistently, was a decent finisher. He wasn't much more than that, was a decent finisher. Giroud, really good underrated player, did a job. Loic Remy, really good underrated player, did a job. Demba, really good underrated player, did a job. And the three things with those three, they got all of them for under 30 million in total. Mm-hmm. Now, if you were saying to me that we were going after like a Tony, for example, for a big money, and he was proven in the Premier League, I'd maybe more inclined to splash big money. Nowhere near, the money you're talking about Osimhen on it. Yeah, Timo Werner, another one, for example. Like, I love Timo Werner because, again, he was one of the few players genuinely that pulled his heart and soul out. Unfortunately, he was a great example that working hard and doing your best does not equate to being able to finish in the Premier League as much as it hurts, because I really wanted Werner to work. Havertz is another one. Huge amount of money, loads of potential, but no end product, or not enough end product to warrant it. So, if you're talking about a player that was proven in the Premier League, I would maybe understand it. But Chelsea can do much better going out and scouting a striker, again, that has more complete attributes, whether it's Nicholas Jackson, who, has gone from being someone who a couple of days ago, I'll admit, I'd never heard of, to now Chelsea fans seem convinced he's, the second coming of R9, based on some of the stuff I've seen in the last few days. We have to be getting rid of Broja and whatever. People forget that when Broja was at Southampton, the much worse side, he still scored a few Premier League goals. He could definitely score chances in the league, and he is a handful for defenders. The jury's out on Datra Fofana. Like, we've seen half a game of him, he looked quite good, and for some reason he was punished by being subbed off. Where you come to the midfield, however, I completely agree with Matisse. So often there have been games in recent years, I can think of like 5 of them off my head, where we've conceded stupid goals on the counter-attack because no one's got the legs to follow players. At least Caicedo's got the legs in there. As much as I love N'Golo Conte, and he had the legs for it, Conte's injury record meant you couldn't rely on it. And one of my unpopular opinions back in March was I said, I wouldn't give Conte a new deal this summer because of the fact that even if you're saying he's brilliant in the games he's playing, if he's only playing 1/5 of those games, unless you've got him a point where you literally can wrap him in cotton wool and just play him in the big games, which he won't accept, then, it's dead weight in the squad. In a similar way to one of my unpopular opinions about Liverpool is that if they got a really good bid this summer for Thiago, and I mean like a really, really good bid, you're talking 40 million plus, I would take it. Because the fact his legs are gone and one more bad injury is going to, end him. As good a player that he is and as good a footballer that he is, you can't rely on someone like that. And with Caicedo, he's got the experience, he's got the fitness. I mean, people talk about the fact that the sort of, the injury sort of spread, sort of talk about the injury sort of situation, say, what if he gets injured and things. You have to take that, risk of buying a big money player. We take the same risk with Enzo Fernandez. But I'm much more confident that you can get more out of Enzo Fernandez to replace him if you've got someone in there alongside of him doing the running than you do if you've got a striker in front of Enzo Fernandez who's putting the goals away, because otherwise the balls won't go anywhere. If the ball's not getting anywhere near the striker, and that's been our biggest issue, has been midfield progression. Like, besides Kovacic, Kovacic is great at the progression side of things, but has no end product. Caicedo was starting to show the progression element and also the end product element. And that's where Chelsea really fell down last season, was having that player not in the midfield. And obviously, from Chelsea's perspective, if they're seeing a chance they can include like Gallagher in the deal, I think Gallagher's going to end up a decent Premier League squad player. But I don't think he's ever going to be good enough to stop Chelsea. I don't think it's fair for Chelsea at his age to say to him that, you're just going to be a squad player and just stunt his career when he could go elsewhere, play permanent minutes and maybe prove them wrong. And I think if Chelsea can get a deal done that involves, an amount of money for Caicedo plus Gallagher, it's the best of both worlds because it gives both players equal opportunities to do what they want to do.
Couldn't agree more.
I can't lie, you guys have made a strong argument. I'd still genuinely think your striker is just like ultimate, like needed position. And the thing is, I'm not saying you shouldn't sign a midfielder. My argument is go get a striker that's going to get you goals and go get Lavia.
So my argument for you on the other side, if you had a choice last summer between going out and bringing in Enzo Fernandez or doing what you did and brought in Darwin Nunez, what would you have rather you done?
Enzo, of course. But I'm a massive fan of Enzo.
Yeah, exactly. And that's because, again, your attack was scoring goals. Our attack has the ability to score goals. It's just they waste chances. All that needs to happen is actually a consistent set of the actual attack. And this is where I think Nkunku will be quite important, is if we get a player in there that is starting to link up play and doing the link up play and scoring goals, everyone in the team's confidence will improve. You see it with Madueke, for example. Madueke looked a bit nervous and a bit worried. Once he got that first goal, the shackles were off. He was starting whipping out the step overs, doing all sorts of stuff. Okay, it didn't always come off, but you accept that from a winger. The same with Mudryk. Like once Mudryk gets that first goal, Mudryk will start to fly because you can tell the confidence is on the floor at the moment. And he's trying, at times he's trying too hard and it's not coming off. At other times he's not gambling and taking, he's not doing what he needs to do. Once you get that first goal, the shackle comes off for a lot of players and a lot of attacking players. And this is where Liverpool have been so effective in like recent years. And I think this is one of the big bones of contention last year. Even when they weren't necessarily playing well, you had people like Mane who just had the ability and the confidence to, go around a couple of players and put it in, or alternatively Salah.
I don't think your midfield is as a glaring problem as our midfield was last summer. That's why I think
exactly the same problem.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say your glaring problem currently is your forward line?
No. Your midfield and our midfield was the same thing in terms of we need to rejuvenate it because old aging players that can't keep up, and you exactly the same thing. Now, back to the chance creation thing. Chelsea last season finished 10th for chances created. Chelsea last season were getting dominated at home to Southampton and cut apart and couldn't control games. If you control games like Brighton, you play good football and you create the second or the third most chances in the league, you are going to score more goals. Brighton created the 5th most chances last season in the Premier League. We've created 10th. So if you create more chances, people are going to take more shots and people are going to score more goals, just on average. These are still footballers. Mudryk can shoot if he gets an opportunity. I think with development coaching,
we don't know about that, to be fair.
Last season it was horrendous, but like I said, these are still footballers. Next season, with proper coaching and with proper tactic system in place and some consistency, with confidence, this guy will be able to shoot a lot better than we've seen. Sterling's there, Nkunku's there. There are players there that can get goals, but if you're not going to control games, dominate games from midfield, and actually play like a top team, you're not going to score goals. There's no point having a striker up there that could score 20 goals, but Chelsea are getting bossed in midfield at home to Southampton and against Brighton and against all these other teams. There's no point. You got to start from the ground up and work your way up. This is a terrible Chelsea team that finished 12th last year. They have to get the midfield and the control back. We have to start playing like a top team again first. The goals is only one of the issues for sure.
And I would also add to that there were so many games last year where Chelsea started it well and then due to a stupid mistake in the midfield or a lack of legs conceded on the counter-attack, and it made it very, very easy for the opposition team. Villa in the league was one of them I can remember really, really well. Villa in the league, stupid individual mistake in the midfield, lose the ball. Mark Cucurella misjudges a header, comes all the way through. Ollie Watkins puts it in. And then Villa just sit back and defend for the rest of the game. And just sit back and play on the counter-attack. Bit of pace up there, Ollie Watkins. Play on the counter-attack. Score a goal for a set piece in the second half. And it's game over. And in that game, I think Chelsea had something like 19 shots or something. 7 on target in that game. Because they were just increasingly getting frustrated, they would try and do more and more. If you at least have that midfielder in there and you've got the ability to dominate the ball and you're dominating in the opposition half, you're stopping them having those breaks out. You're stopping them being able to counter, sort of as easily. And one of my biggest gripes, and this is one of the things I do like about Caicedo. Caicedo is really good at the dark arts. Like, I've seen him really good at the tactical foul, just pulling someone back or that cheeky little trip up. There were far too many players in our squad last year that were too nice. Like, I've said this multiple times. There are so many times I've looked in the midfield and I watched someone breeze past the midfield and I thought, you know what, if that was Essien or John Obi Mikel, like John Obi Mikel's special used to just be grab someone's arm and pull him back. And you take the yellow card, you accept it, you reset yourself for it. And there were so many games last year where players had the chance to do that on the opportunity and didn't because they're too nice and they were too interested in playing football. And that's my biggest sort of gripe of it, is that if you let teams do that against you, they know they can bully you and they know you're weak. And Caicedo is someone who's not weak. And that's what Chelsea, he may not be the biggest guy, but he can look after himself. And that's what Chelsea need.
Okay. Listen, you guys have made very solid, very fair arguments. We will see. We will see next season when if you guys do get Caicedo, if my argument is strong or weak. Neropal says Matisse's thoughts on the defense. Is he happy?
I am happier. I think apart from
Thiago leaving, by the way, Silva.
No, Silva's staying. Apart from the goalkeeper, I'm pretty happy. If Ian Maatson potentially seems like reportedly wants to go on loan again, one more season to Burnley, that would be great. If he gets a new contract, that gives Chilwell and Cucurella 1 year to fight it out for who's getting sold in the next summer. Because I'd love to see Ian Maatson, even though there are frailties that he'll have to improve on as well, like defensive awareness and maybe back post physically if people go up aerially against him because he's not the tallest. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Ian Matson's a perfect player, but for someone that doesn't cost anything, he's certainly better value for money than what we've got in Cucurella based on the first season for 62 million. So, but the right back, you've got Gusto and James now. You've got the centre backs in Levi Colwell, Badiashile, Fofana, Silva. Chalobah. That
Southgate took for no reason. Couldn't even play him against.
I don't even want to talk about Southgate because of why. We're on your channel, and I don't want you to get in any trouble. Do you know what I mean? So it's just better that I just don't speak. It's better I don't speak because if I speak, I'm in big trouble. But yeah, and then it's Koulibaly versus Trevor, who's going to be sold in that centre back position. But I'm happy.
Can I just say on the topic of Koulibaly, just in regards to it again, I reported this the other day. There's at least 3 Saudi Arabian clubs really keen. Al Hilal are really, really keen. Chelsea have basically told him and his agent that they aren't counting on him. They don't really, that they basically said to him that we've replaced you with Levi Colwell, and they want to show Colwell that open opportunity. They know that Badiashile is still going to be recovering in pre-season. They want to show that opportunity to Colwell to say, you can come straight in and step straight in. We can play Wesley on the right-hand side, put Colwell on the left and give you that chance in pre-season. And that's why Chelsea, consistently, Brighton have offered, 30 million for Colwell. They're going to come back with 40 million. Chelsea have consistently just said no chance of any deal with Colwell. And I think if the contract situation had been maybe more severe, they'd have maybe considered negotiating, but because they've got all the cards in this and Colwell himself isn't actively agitating to move, I'd be incredibly surprised if Chelsea, accept any sort of offer. Obviously, if someone comes in and offers stupidly over the value, then that might happen. But I was told by someone from internally within the club that they were looking at the likes of, Gvardiol's potential transfer fee and stuff like that and saying that's a similar level to where we value Levi Colwell at because of the fact he's talked about as being the next John Terry. He's talked about as being a future captain. As someone said to me, Brighton don't often splash cash on players. When they splash cash on a player, they're usually a good player. The fact they want to spend a record fee on Levi Colwell should tell us that immediately you shouldn't be going anywhere, accepting this sale.
Okay, fair enough. And listen, final question I want to ask you guys before I let you guys go, because we have to let Matisse's influence herself. He's
off to the exclusive parties tonight, I hear.
I'm just gonna just move on.
So Matisse touched on it. So just the final position I want to ask you guys about the goalkeeper situation. Obviously, Mendy, Kepa. Listen, let's not even go there. With the whole, I've seen you guys linked to Andre Onana, real strong. I've seen you guys linked to what's the other guy's name? What's the other goalkeeper you guys are interested in?
Mike Mannion.
But he's not interested in us, apparently.
Yeah,
so,
I would take that report with a grain of salt. Is all.
Oh, okay, really? Okay, that's good.
I will take that report with a grain of salt. The main club goalkeepers that Chelsea have interest in, there are there have been initial discussions with Andre Onana's agent, and Chelsea would like to do something for Andre Onana. There have been discussions with Mike Maignan and with AC Milan. Again, in the case of this, Luke, Inter Milan have players Chelsea want. AC Milan have at least a couple of players that, or a couple of players at Chelsea that they would be interested in taking. The problem with Maignan is they value him at a ridiculous fee. However, he's not necessarily interested in renewing at this moment in time due to the Paolo Maldini situation, which may actually impact a lot of their sort of planned business. Certainly, there's a lot of players out of kilter. Then the next stage of goalkeepers, Chelsea has spoken to Valencia about Giorgio Mamardashvili. Again, I've seen nothing of Mamardashvili, but my friend who is a sort of Valencia fan says he's very, very good and is one of the main reasons why they did end up avoiding relegation. Apparently, he has a release clause. Again, I haven't had a chance to properly investigate this. Chelsea won't go for Diogo Costa. He's too expensive, which is partly why, again, with Onana, they don't want to pay crazy money. They don't want to just, in someone's words to me, if we wanted to pay crazy money for a keeper, we'd just go and trigger Diogo Costa's release clause. There is some level of interest in Robert Sanchez and in Ilian Meslier, but it's mainly individual people in the coaching staff really pushing that rather than specific people. And then the club have had some discussions with David Raya's agent, but Raya seems determined to move to Tottenham, and Brentford have seen a chance to mug Tottenham for as much cash as they can here. So I will say in advance, I really don't rate David Raya as a goalkeeper. I think he's one of the most erratic players in the league. Brentford have actually replaced him with a better player already in Mark Flecken. Mark Flecken is a much better goalkeeper all round. He'd be a great choice early for fantasy football next year. He'll be cheap.
How about this guy?
He's going for a Freiburg side that is a very... Ilian Meslier. Chelsea have had limited levels of interest in him in the past, and there are a lot of clubs that have explored him. He's still considered to be really sort of erratic as a goalkeeper, and again hasn't had a great year. Leeds would also want a lot of money. They're not necessarily prepared to let him going for cheap.
If can I just say, if we sign this guy,
yeah,
I throw up in my mouth, right? I throw up in my mouth if we sign this man.
I agree.
Seriously, this shouldn't.
I think he's the worst keeper in the whole league, and he's the most overrated keeper.
Should not even be on our shortlist. I don't know if we're taking inspiration from Ramsdale when he was relegated, and we thought, oh well, maybe that story, that Twilight story, will happen for us. No, thank you. Okay, because for every one Ramsdale is about 100 millionaires. So I'm not doing this at all. I'm not playing this game. That guy is just off limits. For me, it's the two keepers in the Milan clubs. There's probably some gems out there in the French league, which I'm not familiar with, but some people have said that there are gems out there. That's down to the scouts. And then maybe you say Martinez at Aston Villa if you want the shithousery, the personality, and obviously he's a good shot stopper. Yeah. Outside of that, if we're going to Sanchez's and Raya's and Leeds keeper Pickford, don't make me sick. These keepers, just don't even change the goalkeeper. Just leave the goalkeeper as to who it is right now.
Man said I'd rather keep Kepa than sign Belly.
No, because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time.
That's fair. That's fair.
I would rather keep Kepa than sign Meslier. At least with Kepa, he's an okay, close range shot stopper and is okay with certain stuff. Meslier is not good at anything. I can't think of one thing where I think of for Melier's biggest thing he's good at is being able to pass the ball. He's quite good at passing it, and even then, that's regressed in the last year. I can't think of any one goalkeeper.
I agree with you completely. I don't think... I'm so happy Matisse said this and Rob agrees. Bro, this Meslier hype just gets on my nerves. I just don't understand. Why are people so hyped about this? He's actually crap. No exaggerations. He's just crap.
Yeah. Precisely.
What are you doing? I'd be shocked.
Also, we have a young goalkeeper from the US that we've signed that actually looks like he has potential. If you're going to sign a goalkeeper, they have to be a starter, and they have to be a level of, not level, 2-3 levels above what we have, because it's a clear upgrade that takes us to be in a top team again. And then you're continuing to develop and to improve the young goalkeeper that you had that you won the battle against Real Madrid to sign, and that plays for under 20s in the World Cup in the US. I'm not interested in all of these little other options that have been floating about. Even Mendy. Mendy is not as bad as people think he is for us to be wasting our time with some of these names. It's just not it has to be a massive upgrade or it's a pointless.
Someone has just said to me what I would do for the year actually with this is that I would go and get Keylor Navas in for a year or two. I would have Navas at the club for a year or two. He's experienced. He's been there, done that. He's still a very good goalkeeper. It's not his fault that he ended up number 2 at PSG. It was because PSG were determined to go and buy Donnarumma and pay him $400k a week. It's not because Navas is a bad goalkeeper. that he ever ended up number 2 anywhere. It's not because he ended up at number 2 at Real Madrid, not because he's a bad goalkeeper. It's because they went and signed Thibaut Courtois. And that's, I would go and get him for a couple of years, send Slonina out on a 2-year loan somewhere, similar to what we did with Courtois, get him somewhere he's going to play week in, week out, and get him back developed. And you've got it sorted. I think Navas is a really good goalkeeper. Like I've said this before multiple times. I would have happily taken him at various times at Chelsea. He was one of my names top of the list before we brought Mendy in. I'm a little confused by Mendy getting sidelined, but I think it's a combination of bad luck and a bad time to lose form. And I think it's the right time, for him to move on a personal level. I think he just needs to move somewhere to get his confidence back because it's clearly gone sort of heavily.
Okay, fair enough.
So someone
People saying De Gea, don't even bite the De Gea one. Don't you dare bite, Rob. I'm
replying to the Slonina thing. The Slonina thing, someone says there, you got the pressure 50 games. That's exactly it. Again, knowing his camp quite well, Slonina would quite happily stick around if he thought he was going to get a fair shot. But otherwise, he wants to go on loan because there's no point sitting on the bench all year. And that's his exact, his words specifically are, there's no point sitting on the bench if I can go and play. Okay, which I totally get.
Fair enough. I thought you were going to bite at that whole De Gea thing, so I was.
I honestly, he's the experienced version of Melier. I can think of so many.
That's such a good take.
In the last year, I can't think of who's made more appalling errors actually, Melier or De Gea. I can think of so many De Gea games where I'm just United were doing fine in that, and then De Gea fucked it. And the same with Melier.
I agree with you completely. Both of them are just horrible, man. But anyway, listen. We're going to wrap it up here. We've asked them about every single position. It's been an absolutely lovely conversation. Matisse thought I was going to cook him. He was the guy that mentioned Bellingham, not me. I've been a nice, brilliant host, may I add, all stream long. I haven't been an asshole once. I've just given my opinions objectively, all of that. I didn't remind him that he's finished 12th. I didn't remind him that they had 3 managers, one of them who's apparently called Andrew Tate. So I don't know about all of this. So I've just been a nice host all stream long. Anyway.
You're ruining it now, but anyway, go on.
I just had to get my slap back for the whole Bellingham stuff. And this guy mentioned Dembaba as well, the cheek. 440 people watching us still. Make sure you're slapping the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to This Is Football. Meet us back at midnight UK time because I'm going to be tactically breaking down Liverpool Football Club, Kefren Turam, Manu Kone, blah, blah, blah. We're going to speak about it all, how Liverpool line up next season. Before we head out, Habibis, I saw a guy ask me if I'm going to do an England watch-along. I've done 2 England watch-alongs and I fell asleep in both of them. So I'm never going to do that again. So make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing. Before we head out, lovely panel. We're going to let you know where you can find them. My brother Rob, where can people find you?
You can find me at RJP Journalism. Again, I'm probably going to be very active for the next couple of months during the window and then quieten down after that. But yeah, so let the madness begin.
Yeah.
Big up to you, Rob. Matisse, same question. Where can people find you?
3 letters, MAH, YouTube. I could say let the madness begin, but to be honest, I'm already tired because the season's been so long. Watching this team, the summer's meant to be a little bit calmer, but it's obviously not going to be. But yeah, man, literally in New York next week. So yeah, over the weekend, just putting out content, and then after that, the Big 6, we go to New York, and that's going to be a mad.
There's no Battle of the North next week?
There will be. I fly out on Tuesday, so just one more, just to quickly get in there, and then we got. By then, Mason Mount should be holding up a Man United shirt, and then flawless.
Oh, he's gonna lose his head. I love that. Big up to Messi FC, big up to Ashraf, big up to Nilit Pal. Like, subscribe, go subscribe to Matisse's channel, go follow him, go follow Rob. You don't need me to say go follow Matisse. He's a celebrity already. But make sure you follow myself and Rob. My Twitter is in the description. Just hit the link and follow me. Follow Rob as well at RJP Journalism. And we'll see you guys today, inshallah, at midnight.